Hi, Sean Kosofsky here, the Nonprofit Fixer, and I'm doing this video for you today about nonprofit mergers and the steps included in them. I myself have never done a nonprofit merger, but I've been part of the conversations around them. Organizations I have left have then later merged and seen lots of problems. So my understanding of mergers firsthand is a little limited, but I had a guest post, someone who actually navigated an entire merger on my site. So either you're reading that blog right now and this video is below that, or you're on my YouTube channel and will point you over to that blog post. But Karen Carloni, a former client of mine, was navigating a merger and we worked on that together while I was her coach. But you can definitely see the steps involved, and I'll walk you through those steps from an expert, from someone who did it successfully, just to kind of walk you through in case you'd rather hear or watch the video instead of read the blog post. Essentially, when you are considering a merger, it probably means because the marketplace is causing that, right? There's usually a funding consideration or a big problem happening brand-wise, reputation-wise. Usually when mergers happen, it's because of duplication and therefore there's fewer resources out there, or you're just stronger together in the marketplace. There's usually a marketplace consideration for why two entities would merge. Rarely is there a hostile takeover. In the business world, rarely is there some sort of shared economic interest as much as there is a funder and stakeholder or marketplace question. For example, you might see AIDS organizations in a certain part of the country. There might have been multiple during the 80s or 90s, and then eventually they needed to consolidate because there were fewer of the original concerns and newer, different concerns, and so you might have seen a consolidation. Some people will call that a consolidation or a merger. Sometimes when organizations merge, they share the name of both organizations or one, or they create a new name. Either way, that's the smallest of the consideration, but your stakeholders will care about the name. But let's go through the steps of a nonprofit merger. In this blog post that I have on my site, you'll see that there's a good graphic walking you through each of the steps. Step one, in general, would be to identify that a merger is a strategic priority. You don't want to get into a merger if everyone doesn't think it's probably a good idea and a strategically good idea. Not just a thing we want to do because we're bored or a thing we want to do because a donor told us to. It is a strategic priority. Then, step two would be to identify a merger partner and begin talks with a non-disclosure agreement. You don't want any of the parties disclosing to other competitors or players or field organizations or donors or the media that this is happening. So after the signing of an NDA and identifying which group you might want to merge with, and sometimes it happens because two groups just start talking versus identifying a group you want to merge with. In this situation, it was a smaller health system or mental health services program and a much, much larger one serving an entire county or two. In step three, you're going to want to present the idea to both boards. The executive director doesn't get to just decide if there's a merger. The executive director works for the board owns the corporation, so you're definitely going to have to present the strong and compelling and strategic case to the board. Step four is that both boards would vote on an intent to move forward, an intent to merge. And then they sign a letter. So basically, we start getting into a formality that this is in motion. We're going to start spending money and time on doing this. This is a go. We're going to start spending resources on investigating whether a merger makes sense. Then, step five, you will bring in some experts, usually a consultant, lawyers, tax professionals, compliance people, folks who have done this before, experts, and engage them around a roadmap on what's the plan forward and anticipating any challenges so you can prevent those challenges. And then step six, you're going to want both boards to vote to merge. And then the clock starts ticking on what the timeline is. In that original plan, you'll probably say, We'll announce the merger, we'll begin consolidating offices and staff, there might be some layoffs or staffing changes, the name will then be announced to the public. All those things are included in like a timeline or plan. The final step is that these merger activities begin. The things I was just listing that would be in the timeline, they start to happen. And sometimes this happens over the course of a few months or even a few years, but usually under a year. So those are the steps of what happens in a nonprofit merger, but I definitely want to zoom back and then zoom in a little bit on both situations. A merger is pretty difficult to undo. So once you've created an organization, look around at your assets, look at your reputation, look at your list size, your donors, the intellectual property, look at all the stuff your organization has, and take all that into consideration when you're merging. If you're an executive director or on the leadership team, will there be a role for you after the merger? You can negotiate this. Will your title change and scope of work change? There probably won't be 2 executive directors at the other end of this. So is someone given a golden parachute and asked to exit? Is that voluntary? A lot of considerations here, and sometimes your stakeholders are happy about the merger, some are displeased. So just take take a beat before you plan merger conversations to really game this out and talk with folks and have those NDAs in place. If you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe down below and tell your friends. Thank you very much.